10 years of love. On our anniversary, my husband called another woman to lull her to sleep. Don't be scared, I'll be with you the whole time. I'll come over to your place in a couple of days. My wife is right here. If the baby bothers you, I'll deal with him after he's born. His tone was as gentle as ever, but the words he spoke were sharper than a knife plunged into my heart. My eyes silently welled up. Seeing this, my husband, Thomas, immediately turned off his phone screen and rushed to comfort me. Audrey, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Let's go to the hospital. His urgency seemed genuine, not an act. I managed a faint smile, stopping him. I'm fine. I was just thinking about all the years we've spent together, feeling a bit sentimental. Thomas pulled me into a hug, promising we'd spend 10, 20 more years together, a lifetime. I closed my eyes, letting the tears fall. He didn't know that I had understood every word of the German he had just spoken on the phone. It was our anniversary. The city saw a rare, heavy downpour that day. When I got home, rainwater dripped from my coat onto the floor. Thomas came forward, holding a dry towel. He deftly removed my wet coat and started drying my hair. His movements were practiced and familiar. I looked up, my forehead brushing against Thomas' chin. His rough stubble tickled me, making me chuckle involuntarily. Thomas intentionally rubbed harder as he dried my hair, sounding slightly annoyed. Why didn't you answer my calls? Why did you run out in such heavy rain? I offered a pleading smile. I just went out to pick something up. Today is our wedding anniversary, after all. On the nearby counter sat the cake I had meticulously protected. I had baked it myself. The morning weather had been perfect. Who knew it would pour like this when I returned in the evening? I gazed at Thomas, my eyes shining. My focus inevitably drifted to the scar on his arm again. Thomas was very fair-skinned, and the scar stood out prominently, like an ink spot intentionally placed on a pure white page. From childhood, Thomas had been an outgoing, bright boy, yet never a troublemaker. He got that scar saving me. When I transferred to Thomas High School, I was targeted and bullied. At that time, overwhelmed by a family tragedy, I was too shocked to fight back against the cruelty. The bullies treated me as their punching bag, hitting me whenever they were upset. That day, they seemed particularly enraged. As soon as I left school, they dragged me into a narrow alleyway. A torrent of fists rained down on me. Just as I was about to pass out from the pain, Thomas stepped in. He called the police and had them all sent to the station. Since they were minors, they only received a severe reprimand. Thomas was dissatisfied with that outcome but helpless. He found me, speaking with disappointment. You just let people bully you like that. Why are you yielding to them? You're just as human as they are. To protect me, he started walking with me to and from school. Eventually, he transferred to my class. I asked Thomas why he was doing all this. He thought for a moment and said, "Maybe because I find you tolerable." As he spoke, the sunlight caught his sharp yet gentle brow. My mind wandered, but my heart locked onto his image. I never anticipated that the bullies, resenting Thomas for reporting them and making them targets of public scrutiny, would seek revenge. One day, on our walk home, they came at us with knives. To shield me, Thomas used his arm to block a blow. Seeing the ground stained with blood, the attackers who had only intended to scare us folded in panic. I held the profusely bleeding Thomas, tears streaming down my face. Kind strangers helped rush him to the hospital. Although he received immediate treatment, the wound was deep, requiring over a dozen stitches, leaving a frightening scar. Recalling those events, I hugged Thomas' arm and asked him, "You treat me so well, will you love me forever?" Thomas frowned and tapped my head. "What nonsense are you thinking? I only want you for the rest of my life." With that, he pulled me and pushed me into the bathroom. "Hurry up and shower. I already ran the water for you. You'll catch a cold otherwise." I wrinkled my nose. "You're nagging, you nagging man." Soon, I emerged from the bathroom. Thomas habitually seated me in a chair and dried my hair with a blow dryer. Afterward, we sat together at the dining table for dinner. Today marked our 6th wedding anniversary. Although the heavy rain trapped us indoors, the atmosphere was exceptionally cozy. After we finished cleaning up, I sat by the window, scrolling through my phone. Thomas embraced me from behind. The faint scent of his orange-scented shower gel wafted into my nostrils. I looked up, seeing the reflection of the handsome man in the window pane. I couldn't resist turning back and staring directly at him. After so many years together, I still loved looking into Thomas' eyes. They were like an ocean vortex, capable of effortlessly drawing anyone in. Suddenly, Thomas lowered his head, his cool lips finding mine. An intimate silence settled around us, thick with anticipation. But then, his phone rang, shattering the tranquility. It was Thomas' phone. He frowned, saw the caller ID, and immediately hung up. Yet, The phone rang again. Insistent. Maybe you should answer it. What if it's the company needing you? Thomas finally swiped the screen, answered, and held the phone to his ear. After listening for a moment, Thomas abruptly switched to German to speak to the person on the line. Don't be scared, I'll be with you the whole time. I'll come over to your place in a couple of days. My wife is right here. If the baby bothers you, I'll deal with him after he's born. His tone was still the same gentle one I knew, but once I understood the words, my hands clenched. Who was Thomas talking to? Why German? What did he mean by the baby? The next sentence Thomas spoke was enough to completely devastate me. Hannah, stop whining. I'll take you shopping for the bag you like next time. My wife. Don't worry, she doesn't understand German. I don't know what the person on the other end said, but Thomas smirked. The baby is 3 months old. I'll make sure to satisfy you when I visit next time. I have to stay home with my wife these next 2 days. Just dress nicely at the office tomorrow. I felt like I had plunged into an ice abyss, my eyes instantly stinging with tears. Thomas was clearly cheating. If I wasn't mistaken, the Hannah he mentioned was his female secretary, but he had no idea I understood German. When he went to study in Germany, I secretly worked hard to learn the language so we could communicate easily, fearing he'd think I was overworking myself. I never mentioned it. Unexpectedly, it had become the key to discovering his infidelity. Thomas saw my tear-filled eyes and immediately shut off his screen, rushing to soothe me. Audrey, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Let's go to the hospital. His anxiety didn't seem feigned. I weakly pulled the corners of my mouth into a smile, stopping him. It's nothing, just feeling sentimental thinking about all the years we've been together. Thomas, we've really been together for so long. Thomas hugged me, promising we'd spend 10, 20 more years together, a lifetime. I closed my eyes, letting the tears stream down. A few moments later, I had suppressed my emotions. I looked at the man before me and spoke, feigning casualness. By the way, were you just talking to a client? Why the foreign language? I couldn't understand any of it. Thomas chuckled. Yeah, a German client. You haven't studied German, Audrey. Of course you wouldn't understand. I looked at his careless smile, and my heart tightened. Thomas was confident I didn't know German, which is why he was comfortable flirting with another woman right next to me. For a moment, I was speechless. He reached up, ruffled my hair, and gently said, "Let's go to bed early. We both have work tomorrow." I nodded calmly. My mind was a mess. I had no idea how to face the cheating Thomas. When I woke up the next morning, breakfast was on the table, but Thomas had already left for the office. I got up, looked at my haggard face in the mirror, and felt numb. Thankfully, it was my day off from the hospital. Otherwise, I didn't know if I could focus on work in this state. Recalling Thomas' phone call from the night before, my heart began to ache again. But I told myself I couldn't wallow. I needed clarity for my future. If Thomas had truly cheated, I would leave him without hesitation. So, I contacted a friend who worked as a private detective, asking him to track Thomas' movements, specifically concerning Hannah. However, before my friend could gather evidence, I received a call from Hannah herself. "Hello, is this Ms. Audrey? I'm Hannah, Thomas' secretary and the person he needs most." Hannah deliberately emphasized the last few words. I realized immediately this was a call intended to provoke. "I am Thomas' wife. As an employee, do you have business calling your boss wife?" I spoke into the receiver, trying to inject authority into my voice. "Pfft." Hannah suddenly laughed, then spoke in a falsely sweet voice. "Oh, right, I forgot. You're the wife who's been married to Thomas for 6 years, a boss wife who's almost 30. I just wonder, if the boss wife finds out Thomas has fallen in love with me, will she cry herself to death at home?" I gripped my phone tightly. "Hannah, if I'm not mistaken, Thomas doesn't know you called me, does he? If he found out, would you still have a job at the company?" The woman on the other end fell silent instantly and then abruptly hung up. I stared at the screen, sinking weakly into a chair. Speaking to a mistress with the legitimate wife attitude was something I never imagined doing. I never thought Thomas would actually cheat. That evening, Thomas came home on time as usual, but the house lacked the carefully prepared meal I usually made. He noticed the change and asked if I was feeling unwell. I didn't know how to answer Thomas, how to face this unfaithful man, but then, against my better judgment, I spoke. "Is your secretary, Hannah, really good at her job?" He seemed to freeze instantly. Thomas recovered quickly and nodded calmly. "She's decent. Why do you suddenly bring her up? Did she come looking for you?" Seeing the man's cautious testing, I suddenly lost the courage and desire to confront him. I lowered my gaze, shaking my head and denying it. "No, I just feel a little jealous that you have a female secretary close by." Thomas relaxed, pulling me into a tight embrace. My little Audrey, you're still like a child. His eyes curved into crescents. He hugged me and kissed my forehead. The person I love, in this life, will only ever be you. Always. Thomas' tone was eternally sincere, but this time, I couldn't believe him. The weekend arrived. It was my birthday. Every year, Thomas would arrange a party for me, inviting all our friends. It was an event I always looked forward to with intense happiness, but now, knowing Thomas' betrayal, all I wanted was to escape. So, at the party, I casually made an excuse. The hospital called. A patient needs me. I have to leave early. Thomas frowned, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face. But it's your birthday. Can't you just take a break? I stroked his brow, just as I used to, and gently coaxed him. It's fine. Besides, I just remembered the gift I prepared for you is in my drawer at the hospital. The day we officially became a couple was also my birthday. We had made a pact to exchange gifts on this day every year. Every year, I designed a bespoke suit for him. This year was no exception. Before I found out about his cheating, I had already finalized the design. I finished making it over the past 3 months. Seeing my insistence, Thomas sighed, a fond expression on his face. I can never win against you, but blow out the candles before you go. The ice cream cake I made especially for you will melt soon. I nodded. Thomas smiled, led me to the cake, and we blew out the candles. Then he announced loudly, Audrey and I are going to be together forever and ever. I will spend my whole life with her. Everyone around us cheered and heckled. Thomas, that's enough. Stop being so cheesy in front of everyone. Honestly, I think Thomas and Audrey have been together for nearly 10 years. And they're still this sweet. I'm so jealous. Hearing that, I was momentarily lost in thought. It was 11 years. This year marked 11 years for Thomas and me, but he changed his heart. I regained my composure, looking at Thomas with a neutral expression, and gently slipped my hand out of his. I'll go pick up my things now. I might not be back until late. You stay with your friends and have fun. I turned and left. After dealing with the patient matter at the hospital, I took the suit and returned to the venue. This was our 11th year. I wanted closure. I felt that this final gesture should be complete. As I ascended the stairs, I saw Hannah open the private room door and step inside, holding the garment bag. My heart was a complex mix of emotions. Thomas, was he that desperate? He needed to call Hannah to join him even during this short time. The pain was overwhelming, making it hard to breathe. I leaned against the wall, my eyes burning with unshed tears. Finally, I decided to call my best friend, Sarah. Sarah, about joining the research institute I accept. My hospital had recently launched a top-secret program heading to a remote desert area, requiring the most skilled doctors for research. The focus of the plan was brain tumors. My father died of a brain tumor, and my mother, unable to cope, suffered depression and died soon after. So, after I became a doctor, my dream was to conquer brain cancer. Joining this secret project meant I couldn't easily leave the institute. It could be a few years, or possibly over a decade. Thinking about being separated from Thomas for so long, I had hesitated. Sarah, my colleague and also part of the plan, knew my reasons and had been furious, calling me love-struck. Now that I abruptly agreed, she sounded surprised. Are you serious? I thought you couldn't live without Mr. Thomas. I looked at her, confused, then pursed my lips. I figured it out. Shouldn't a person live for themselves? I didn't want to tell Sarah about Thomas' betrayal. With her fiery temper, who knew what she might do? Hanging up, I leaned against the wall, calming myself. Back home, I began sorting the items I would throw away versus the things I would take. After organizing my luggage, I picked up the photo album, once a cherished possession, and slowly opened it. Inside were 11 years of memories with Thomas. He truly loved me desperately back then, young and reckless. When a speeding, out-of-control car hurtled towards us, Thomas didn't hesitate to push me away, getting flung several yards himself. He was in a coma for a full week. When he woke up, I cried harder than anyone, promising that no matter what happened in the future, I would stay by his side. Unfortunately, true feelings are fleeting. Betrayal was the one thing I could never tolerate. Finally, I ripped all the photos to shreds and dumped them into the trash bin. What are you doing? Thomas had returned without me noticing. He stared at the photos in the trash, his eyes turning red. Audrey, why did you tear up the pictures? Are you unhappy? I didn't want him to know I had discovered his affair, so I gave a casual excuse. I'm getting a new album printed. I wanted to get rid of these old ones before they turn yellow. Hearing this, Thomas eased his suspicion slightly. He pulled me into a hug. Okay, as long as you're happy, I'm relieved. After confirming the timeline with Sarah, I booked my flight. It was scheduled for the third day. I spent those 2 days systematically destroying every trace of my life with Thomas. The wedding ring, all the joint photos, the love letters from our youth, all gone. Fortunately, he was busy dealing with Hannah and wasn't home often, so he didn't notice the shrinking contents of the house. On the day of my departure, Thomas came home. Just as I was about to leave with my suitcase, he stopped me. "Audrey, where are you going? Why didn't you tell me?" I set down the luggage and lied easily. "I was just about to tell you. The hospital has a special case requiring an on-site surgery. Don't worry, I'm not running away. Why are you so anxious?" Thomas sighed in relief but still pressed close. "Then I'll come with you. You haven't been clinging to me the last couple of days. What if you stop loving me?" "I think you're overthinking. How could I stop loving you?" I spoke patiently. Then I took a divorce agreement out of my bag, carefully hiding the information on the top. "Hey, honey, could you just sign this? It's a surprise I prepared for you." I handed it to him with a feigned look of excitement. Years ago, when I saved up to buy him a star, I had coaxed him into signing documents the same way, perhaps recalling the past. Thomas' expression softened. He smiled lightly and signed the document without hesitation. "Sure. What surprise did my Audrey prepare for me this time? Can I see?" Just as Thomas was about to open the agreement, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and said, "Hold on, Audrey, I need to take this." With that, he turned his back and walked onto the balcony. I watched Thomas' retreating figure calmly, not saying a word. The moment he pulled out his phone, I had already seen the caller ID. "Hannah." I tilted my head, watching Thomas' face light up with pleasure, his brow filled with smiles. For a moment, I paused. I realized I hadn't seen him look that happy in a long time. After about 5 or 6 minutes, Thomas hung up and returned to me. "Audrey, please be careful traveling alone. I have an emergency at the company, so I need to leave." He left without waiting for my reply. I didn't dwell on it. I picked up my suitcase and walked out the door. Just before boarding, I received a message from Hannah. It was an ultrasound scan. "MS, Audrey, I'm pregnant with Thomas' child. Can you just let us be?" I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the message directly to Thomas, then laid all my cards on the table. "Your little lover is coming after me now. Aren't you going to handle it? Oh, and since you signed the divorce papers, remember to collect the divorce certificate when it's ready." After sending the message, I threw my phone straight into the trash. The research institute was located deep within a remote desert. Although the climate was dry, the scenery, straight smoke rising from the vast desert, was visible every day. My mood improved considerably. As soon as Thomas saw my text, he panicked and desperately tried to call me, but no matter how many times he called, all he heard was the cold female voice announcing the phone was unavailable. At that moment, Thomas truly understood fear. He raced home, only to be met by empty rooms. Everything related to Meklos photos had vanished. On the coffee table lay the signed divorce agreement. Anxious and terrified, Thomas searched the villa frantically, unable to find even a trace of me. What he didn't know was that I had incinerated even the ripped-up photos. 11 years of our life together had disappeared into the flames. To find me, Thomas contacted everyone we knew. Unfortunately, I had vanished without a trace. As for Sarah, the moment she left with me, she blocked all contact methods for Thomas. Helpless, Thomas resorted to sending me messages repeatedly. "Audrey, I know I messed up. I'll cut off all contact with Hannah. Can you please come back to me? I'm begging you. I truly can't live without you. Please come home." However, the only response he received was a recurring red exclamation mark. Thomas began drinking heavily after I left. His parents tried to reason with him countless times, but to no avail. I had truly left him. My departure was, naturally, good news for Hannah. She dressed up as before and found Thomas, hoping to spend the night with him, but the man who used to desperately want her now, surprisingly, pushed her away. Hannah panicked. "Thomas, what are you doing? Don't you want to continue doing that happy thing with me?" Thomas glared at her viciously. "Get out. If it weren't for the child in your belly, I would have kicked you out already." Hannah was stunned. Before she could speak, Thomas had her confined to a house, essentially under surveillance. After arriving at the institute, I focused on my work, forgetting all unhappiness. Sarah was relieved to see my state but still worriedly sought me out. "Honestly, I never thought you could break ties with Thomas so cleanly. Can you really let him go?" Hearing Thomas' name made me pause. After all, he was the man I had loved for 11 years. From campus romance to marriage, Sarah had witnessed our entire relationship. She knew how much I adored Thomas. I buried the bitterness in my heart and finally expressed my release. Love is in the past. Nothing in this world is eternal. Having those moments was enough. Sarah sighed in relief and nodded approvingly. Good girl, Audrey. We can live together in the future, too. I playfully pushed her away. Who wants to live with you? Your husband, Mark, will kill me. In the following days, I dedicated myself to medical knowledge. Time flies when you're busy. 6 years passed in the blink of an eye. Through the efforts of my team and myself, we made outstanding contributions to brain cancer research, especially in the area of gliomas. Survival rates increased by at least 20% through surgery and drug therapy. For many families, this was the best possible outcome. One day, the director suddenly informed me that, due to the success of our research drug, we needed to return to the city to share our experience with local medical teams and supervise surgeries. Hearing that I was going back to the city, I felt momentary shock. In 6 years, I had never considered returning, but I thought that enough time had passed. Thomas had likely forgotten me and was raising a happy family of 3 with Hannah. Thinking this, I felt a sudden sense of relief. However, the day before we left, Sarah sought me out, mysteriously asking if I still loved Thomas. I looked at her, confused, and shook my head. You know I don't go back to exes. Sarah was satisfied. Then she gossiped, telling me everything that happened after I left. Mark, Sarah's husband, told her these things. After I left, Thomas used every means to find me, but because I had signed a confidential national agreement, he couldn't track me down. As for Hannah, he never married her. Apparently, Thomas had spent those years drinking heavily, obsessively trying to find his wife. Sarah spoke with indignation. He cheated on you, and now he pretends to be deeply devoted. It's sickening. I smiled indifferently. 6 years was enough time for me to let go of the love and hatred I held for Thomas. What I didn't expect was that 10 minutes after I landed in the city, Thomas appeared before me, looking windswept and weary. He held a bouquet of vibrant red roses, looking exactly like the young man from years ago. When he saw me, he rushed forward and handed me the flowers. I didn't refuse. I took them and offered a gentle smile. Thomas, long time no see. That single sentence was enough to bring tears to his eyes. Thomas' lips moved, as if he wanted to speak, but he ultimately offered a wry smile. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Audrey, long time no see. I missed you very much. But I looked at him calmly, offering no response. Thomas, without prompting, began to apologize. Audrey, I know I hurt you back then. I was wrong. I made sure Hannah terminated the pregnancy, and we haven't been in contact for years. Can you forgive me? His tone was humble, almost pleading. In the past, if Thomas had shown such an expression, I would have instantly softened. But now, as the warm breeze brushed my cheek, I shook my head firmly. I can't, Thomas. Not everything can be forgiven. My tone lacked any bitterness. It was so calm it stunned Thomas. After a long moment, the handsome man in the suit finally realized the finality of my statement and burst into tears. Audrey, I was wrong. I'm sorry. He wept sorrowfully, but I felt nothing. Instead, I took a pack of tissues from my bag and handed them to him, comforting him. We once loved each other. That's undeniable. And the fact that I no longer love you is also true. I used to feel heartbroken and sad over your infidelity. I could even say I hated you. But then I understood. You simply changed your mind. A person who changes their heart isn't worth staying with. Thomas, this is the choice we both made. Thomas stared at me, his eyes bloodshot, and finally chose to leave. When the drug was successfully tested and officially launched onto the market, it dominated all major headlines. Brain cancer has always been a challenging problem for humanity to overcome. So, a drug that even slightly increases the survival rate represents immense hope. The media coverage featured group photos of our institute staff and descriptions of the medicine. When Sarah and I represented the institute at the press conference, the crowd swarmed us. I used to be a complete introvert and reserved, but now, I could handle conversations with reporters with practiced ease. As the conference concluded and I prepared to leave, a woman's voice suddenly erupted from the back of the crowd. Audrey, you bitch. Why did you steal Thomas? Why did you come back after you left? I looked in the direction of the voice and saw it was Hannah. She looked much older than I remembered. She no longer possessed her former vibrant beauty. The woman's outburst caused a fierce reaction in the crowd. What is she saying? Who is the mistress? A researcher. Her name is Audrey, the one in the center. She's quite pretty. I heard their whispers. I smiled faintly and spoke with deliberate calmness. Hannah, we both know who the mistress is. I recall you hooked up with my ex-husband before we were even divorced. I raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? The man you worked so hard to steal doesn't love you anymore." With that, I turned away and left alongside Sarah. I bore no inherent hatred toward Hannah, but if she insisted on trying to upset me, she shouldn't be surprised when I publicly humiliated her. In the crowd, Thomas, who had just arrived, witnessed the entire scene. He grabbed Hannah's arm fiercely. "Hannah, we ended things long ago. Stop talking nonsense." Thomas gave Hannah an indifferent look and prepared to leave. Thomas' dismissive attitude ignited Hannah's fury. She pushed past the surrounding people and chased after him, her voice filled with accusations against the man. "Thomas, look clearly. Audrey doesn't love you anymore. She doesn't have you in her eyes. So why are you still chasing after her? Thomas, turn around and look at me. I love you." Thomas paused. He turned and faced the woman, his eyes reflecting clear disgust. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "Hannah, how can a woman like you compare to Audrey? I was just playing around with you back then." Thomas' words were like shards of ice, sharp and cold. They completely shattered Hannah's already fractured heart. She stood there, disbelief etched on her face. The people nearby, hearing their exchange, understood the whole story. They started mocking Hannah mercilessly. "So, she's the mistress. She destroyed the doctor's marriage. Yeah, and she's so young. How shameless." Hannah's face turned mottled red and white under the scrutiny. After returning to the city, Sarah and I were given a lengthy 3-year sabbatical, having lived in the remote desert for several years. Returning to this bustling metropolis felt strangely unsettling. Eventually, seeing I had too much free time, the director introduced me to a job at a medical school. The work was easy, and while I didn't have much to do, at least it kept me occupied. Thomas occasionally came to the school to stroll around. Most of the time, I chose to ignore his presence. Sometimes, Thomas would find me during breaks to chat and reminisce about the past. I knew exactly what he wanted, but I consciously chose to ignore it. Getting back together was, for me, impossible. I could tolerate certain faults and offer forgiveness, but those things had time limits and frequency limits. Infidelity was absolutely non-negotiable. Just as I was contemplating how to definitively dissuade Thomas, Sarah introduced me to a potential match, a restaurant owner named Ryan. Compared to the current Thomas, Ryan was more like the young Thomas the first remembered, vibrant and passionate. For our first date, Ryan took me to his restaurant. He said he had personally developed all the dishes. Surprisingly, Ryan, who looked like a playboy, took his restaurant business extremely seriously. Both the food quality and service were among the best in the city. Ryan wasn't as frivolous as his appearance suggested. Spending time with him, I felt an unprecedented sense of ease. So, after a simple initial period of getting to know each other, Ryan and I continued to date casually. But one day, when we were out together, Thomas saw us. His face visibly darkened. Thomas angrily stormed over to me, demanding fiercely, "Audrey, who is he?" I frowned. Seeing Thomas' gloomy face made me feel exasperated, especially since all the passers-by were now focused on me. "Thomas, who I choose to have dinner with is none of your business." I apologized to Ryan, preparing to take him elsewhere, but Thomas, without reason, grabbed my arm, stopping me. "Audrey, you can't leave with another man." Seeing this, Ryan shoved Thomas away, pulling me into his protective embrace. "Sir, can't you tell Audrey doesn't want to talk to you?" "Oh, I see. You're the ex-husband Audrey told me about." "Right. Why are you looking for her?" Trying to reconcile. On our first meeting, I had told Ryan everything about my situation. Now in my 30s, if I truly wanted a partner for life, I didn't want to waste time. Ryan, knowing my past, had only become more caring, whether it was buying gifts or taking me out. He showed me through his actions that my past didn't matter. Noticing the intensifying stares from the crowd, I quickly told Ryan to wait for me. Then I pulled Thomas aside and said exasperatedly, "Thomas, what exactly do you want?" Thomas' eyes were red. He complained bitterly, "Audrey, please don't be with anyone else. Seeing you so close to another man makes me feel like I'm going insane from the pain." I looked at Thomas' tormented expression and suddenly felt a surge of vengeful satisfaction. I managed a slight smile. "Thomas, then you should know how difficult it was for me when I found out you cheated." Thomas froze instantly. I looked at him calmly. "You know, I knew the exact time and place you cheated. Didn't Hannah tell you? She even sent me the video of you two having sex to show off." That day, when I saw the message from Hannah, I had been so distraught that I cut my wrist. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't grasp that Thomas would betray me. After losing my parents, in my lonely and helpless life, Thomas had been everything to me. So, why would he betray me? I couldn't understand, but as my blood slowly stained the sink, Just as I was on the verge of fainting in death, I suddenly gained clarity. The end of my life shouldn't be a messy, premature finish caused by someone else's betrayal, so I chose to accept. To accept this despairing and shameful reality. Remembering this, I exposed the scar on my wrist for Thomas to see. Watching his tears stream down, I pulled my arm away. Thomas, so why should I forgive you? Then, I turned and walked away without looking back. After finding a new spot to eat with Ryan, during the wait for our food, he hesitated before speaking. About him, it's impossible. I cut him off, took a sip of tea, and smiled. There is no possibility left between Thomas and me. Then, can I ask how long you were together? Looking at Ryan's sincere eyes, I nodded. 11 years. He was once a ray of light in my darkness. He saved me. He even nearly died for me in a car accident. But even a person like that can cheat. Ryan pursed his lips and after a long moment, said, from a man's perspective, Mr. Thomas loved you. I can tell his feelings for you are deep, but human emotions are complex. He loved you but couldn't resist outside temptation. He struggled and floundered, and the outcome was unsatisfactory. But if a person can't resist temptation, it means their love isn't firm enough. Indifferent. When I commit to someone, I hold on tight. Who knew I'd meet her in my 30s? I looked up, meeting Ryan's gaze, and felt myself blush involuntarily. Ryan, are you complimenting yourself now? Ryan chuckled. You're smiling. The lively sounds around us settled into my ears, and I suddenly felt a profound peace. After that day, my connection with Ryan deepened. We talked about everything. As for Thomas, he never appeared before me again after that confrontation. A year later, Ryan and I were engaged. The passionate happiness he brought me nourished me well. Sarah often joked that I looked more beautiful every time she saw me. Soon, the day of our wedding arrived. On our wedding night, I received a gift, a ring. I knew it was from Thomas. I tossed it cleanly into the trash bin. Seeing this, Ryan's jealous expression finally eased. Noticing his reaction, I asked curiously, why do you like me so much? Ryan smiled, his eyes tender. Mark and I are friends. I actually knew you years ago, but at the time, you had Thomas. I watched your gentle yet lively nature and fell for you. So, when I found out you were divorced, I immediately wanted to find you, but then you disappeared for 6 years. When I heard you were back, I immediately asked Sarah to introduce us. He cupped my face, touching his forehead to mine, looking at me with deep emotion. So, Audrey, will you love me forever? I looked at him and nodded. I do, Mr. Ryan. From that day on, my life was transformed by Ryan. Epilogue. I saw Thomas again over a year later. I was at the hospital, having just given birth to my daughter. She was adorable, though she had worn me out for a whole day before she arrived. Ryan was so annoyed he intentionally nicknamed her Dayan to remind her that she made her mother hurt for a whole day. I couldn't stop him, though I found it hilarious. On our daughter's 1-month celebration, Thomas, who had been absent for a long time, suddenly appeared. He held a gift and smiled. This is for the baby, just a small token of my regard. I looked at Thomas. He hadn't changed much in a few years. He was still handsome, but the carefree ambition in his eyes was gone. I nodded, thank you. Seeing me accept it, Thomas finally offered a genuine smile, but just as he turned to leave, a disheveled woman suddenly charged out. Thomas, you scumbag, die. It was Hannah. She looked crazed, shouting that Thomas needed to pay for her lost child. The venue instantly descended into chaos. By the time the hotel security guards reacted, Hannah had stabbed Thomas in the waist. 10 minutes later, Thomas was taken away by ambulance. Hannah was taken away by police car. Ryan and I went to the police station to give our statements. When we finished, news from the hospital arrived. Thomas was out of critical danger, but because the knife wounds were severe, his kidney was badly damaged. He would never be able to have children again. As for Hannah, just as she was about to be sentenced, Thomas suddenly provided a letter of understanding, asking for leniency. I heard that Thomas later left the city. Hannah was reportedly crying and saying she was sorry, but many things, once started, have a sad ending.